What's up, guys? There you go from SGen. I want to talk about the big story that's kind of been going around as of late, which is whether or not Mauricio Pochettino's run as the Tottenham Hotspur manager is coming to an end or not. And in my opinion, we're very close, but not quite there. Now, what started all of these problems, in my opinion, was the fact that, and I don't have the direct quote here, but I do recall Pochettino himself before the Champions League final saying that if he were to win the Champions League final, he was out. He was going to leave Tottenham as the champions of Europe. If, however, he'd lost, then he was going to stay for the foreseeable future. And in my opinion, that's not a good sign because you're either in it to win it and you're in it for the long haul, or you're already with one foot out of the door, and that's just not really a good way to do things, in my opinion. So I kind of think that that was kind of the beginning of the end for Pochettino with Spurs. And then, of course, you had a player like Christian Eriksen, who was by far their best player. Maybe not by far, but I would say like him and Harry Kane, they're evenly important, I guess you could say, to that team. And then there's just everybody else. So, and I guess you could put Son pretty close there, but I think that it's definitely Eriksen and Kane, number one, number two, but depending on the day, you know, they're kind of swapping back and forth between who's actually the most important player. So when you have a guy like Christian Eriksen trying to force his way out, not just saying he wants to leave, but trying to force his way out to Real Madrid, that's not good because that's just kind of showing that there are already some issues in the locker room. So you already have the manager who's not quite dedicated. You have Christian Eriksen who's definitely not dedicated. You have questions about whether or not Harry Kane wants to stay at Spurs. And there are a few other players there who have mentioned over the past few years, like for example Danny Rose, that the way the club is run doesn't really favor winning titles. It's good for finishing in the top four or playing some good football, but it doesn't really give them the platform that they need to really go out and achieve the things that they want to achieve, which is win the Premier League, win the Champions League. So I think there's a lot of issues there that have to be solved, and I'm really curious to see what's going to happen here. But in my opinion, I think that if things continue to go the way they are, which is the players not really seem like they don't really seem like they want to play for the manager anymore. The manager doesn't really seem like he wants to be there too much. He doesn't seem like he's too bothered by the scenario. So I think that if this continues on like this, and of course losing to Bayern 7-2 at home is a very, very big loss, but it's not even their biggest loss. I would say that the biggest loss they've had of the season was definitely 1-0 to Newcastle. That was a huge loss, and if things continue like this, then honestly, I don't see Pochettino finishing the rest of the season. I don't think he is necessarily in huge danger right now. Like, I don't think he's like him being sacked is imminent, but I think that a few more performances like this, not even that bad, but you know, more or less like that, where they have bad results against teams that they should be beating, then they're definitely going to be some alarm bells. Now, I do want to go ahead and say that, like I said, I don't necessarily think it's a matter of Pochettino not being good enough. I think that Pochettino has shown that what he's been able to do with the tools he's been given is absurd. Like, being able to take a Tottenham team that was, if they had a great season, contenders for top four, and usually finishing below Arsenal and always finishing around like fifth, then that was a great season for them. Having been from there and taking them to a Champions League final and making them legit contenders year after year, and of course having issues to where they don't have enough squad depth, they don't have enough great players, they just don't have what it takes to really go throughout an entire season fighting on 3 different fronts or 4 different fronts if you take into consideration all the cups that they're in or all the competitions they're in, then that's insane. If you take into consideration all those things, you have to say, like, Mauricio Pochettino is a very, very, very good manager. And I think that, like I said, it's not really his fault. I don't think it's necessarily the club's fault. It's the board's fault that this is happening. Why? Well, you know, I have actually a close friend of the family who is very, very good friends with the owner of Tottenham, okay? And he was telling me, like, the philosophy behind the way that Tottenham do business isn't, you know, get the best players possible and try to win competitions. That's not what they want. Their whole goal is to do as well as possible, but not paying a lot of money to the players. So they're not interested in bringing in the best players. They want to sign young, up-and-coming talent who are going to do very big things, and they want to sell them off, and they want to keep them with kind of lowish contracts. So that makes sense to why guys like Eriksen want to leave. More than likely, Kane's going to want to leave. All these players, eventually, they're going to want to move to something that's going to give them the potential of winning the Premier League / any other domestic championship, winning the Champions League. These are all players that are in contention to be starters at Barcelona, Real Madrid, all these huge clubs. So it's understandable why they want to leave. So I don't put the blame on the players necessarily. I don't put the blame on Mauricio Pochettino himself. I put the blame on the board, who, let's not get it twisted, have done a phenomenal job in running this club. They've done a phenomenal job in taking this club from being a mid-table team over the past, I think they bought it in like 2011, 12, something like that, more or less. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's more or less what it is. So they've done a huge job of taking them from 8th, 9th, sometimes 10th, stuff like that, up to being one of the top 3, 4 best teams in England and reaching the Champions League final. So is Pochettino's era coming to an end? Yes, but why? Because he hasn't been backed the way that he should be backed. And that's just the way things are. In football, you either are backing your manager or eventually he's going to have to go. All right, a guy like Pochettino, he's going to have teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, City eventually maybe. Teams like United have been linked with him quite often. They're going to be these clubs, they're going to spend a lot of money, they're going to be linked with him, and eventually you're not going to be able to keep him by just keep giving him some okay players here and there. And Ndombele is a very, very good player, but he's not going to carry you to win the Premier League. He's not going to carry you to win the Champions League. And that's the difference between what Pep Guardiola is getting with Man City and what Pochettino's been getting with Tottenham. And as of the replacement for Pochettino, I've been seeing a lot of Tottenham fans on the internet, and so I don't know how deeply entrenched these Tottenham fans are. They could just be kind of like the Ollie out kind of guys for United. That have been saying they want him out now, and they want to bring in Jose Mourinho as his replacement. Now, I'm here to tell you guys that in my opinion, Jose Mourinho is the wrong person for Tottenham, not necessarily because he's not good enough. I think that he's most certainly good enough. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But the thing is, with Jose Mourinho, you have to back him. You have to buy almost every single player he wants, or at least the most important players that he wants, and to be main pieces of his puzzle. If you don't do that, just like United didn't do that when they didn't sign the midfielders that he wanted. They didn't sign a center back. They didn't bring in the players that he wanted. It was a massive disaster. If you don't bring in the players that he wants, if you don't spend huge money to bring in the best players in the world right now, not for the future, but right now, Jose Mourinho is just not going to succeed, in my opinion. So, I don't know. I think that if some of you Spurs fans do want Jose to be the next manager, I think you might want to rethink that. But that's just kind of my thoughts, guys. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think is next for Pochettino. Like, how is he going to survive until the end of the season, or do you think he's going to get the sack way before that? And also, what do you think of Jose Mourinho as a potential replacement, like a lot of Spurs fans have been asking for? If you enjoyed the video, guys, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell where you get a notification every time one of my videos come out, because that's pretty much one of the only ways that a small channel like mine can actually get some growth going. I appreciate every single one of you guys that do that, and I'll see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching.